They became Australia's most notorious squatters after living in luxury almost rent-free. Our investigation into the Assad family showed they'd pulled off the same rort in the USA, among other cons, which put family head Michael Assad on the FBI's most wanted list with a bounty of $1 million. Damien Hansen has just returned from the US to file this report on how far-reaching this lifestyle has been.
He is so slick, he could fall through a bucket of grease and not even get it on him.
Don't do anything with him. Don't get involved with him. Just honestly beware.
The man is evil. Evil, evil, evil.
Get out of here!
The Assad family don't play by the rules. They're squatters, living a life of deceit under the watchful eye of this man, Michael Assad Sr., an international con man whose latest ruse we exposed last year.
Do not touch the camera! Don't touch the camera!
When we first discovered the Assad family squatting in a multi-million-dollar Gold Coast mansion, little did we know the full extent of the family's criminal past. It's an investigation that's taken us right across the other side of the world, to Hillsborough County in Florida, where we've come to meet a man who's dedicated more than 20 years of his life to bringing the family's patriarch, Michael Assad, to justice.
Thanks to the guts of this news program, and I want to tell you, I think what you guys did was something that should have been done with him and his family from the very beginning. He's never had that kind of aggressiveness. And it was good what you did. It was justice. It was a good thing, and it needed to be done.
Private investigator Bill Hagler is a former bounty hunter who's tracked Assad across the globe and across 3 decades.
Bill, what's the first thing that springs to mind when I say to you the name Michael Assad?
The con man of the Western world. Truly, the best of the best in the con.
And they're not just idle words. Bill, in his career, has captured and returned dozens of fugitives from all over the world. One, however, has continued to elude him. Michael Assad.
Everything is a lie, from deep in his heart to whatever he says to whatever he does. And I can say this credibly to the fullest extent that I know what I'm talking about, because I followed this man, I tracked him, I studied him like a textbook, and to this day I know him as well as I did in the 80s and early 90s.
Even Bill can't believe the audacity of the Assad family, but he knows they've been taught by the very best.
The family he's with now, in my opinion, he's poisoning the minds of those children, and they're grown up now, and they're only trained to know exactly what he wants them to do. And that's no way to live a life.
It took us weeks to ultimately move the Assad family, including matriarch Antoinette and son Michael Jr. from this Gold Coast mansion. Michael Sr. was nowhere to be seen because he was living free at the expense of the New South Wales taxpayer in a Kempsey prison.
I was shocked that he did it again. I can't believe he's getting away with it again.
Because the truth is, Michael Assad had squatted all before, in Florida, in the United States. Heidi Kiernan was Assad's stepdaughter. She became one of his very first victims after the Egyptian-born swindler married her mother Annette in Florida in 1971.
I called him Daddy. He was my daddy from age 2 to 17. From 17, he left and abandoned me and my mother here in Boca Raton, Florida. He was very charming. He promised her the world, but he was very abusive to her too.
Heidi contacted Today Tonight after hearing of our story.
There's another Assad family here in Boca Raton, and we're very real. And he did it to us, and I did it to another family. And he needs to stop. He needs to be stopped.
Assad's criminal history in the United States is lengthy. He was arrested 14 times by state police and the FBI between 1971 and 1985 on charges ranging from bank fraud, embezzlement, to passing bad checks and falsifying bank statements. He later added bigamy to his list of crimes, marrying his current wife Antoinette LaHood when she was just 21, while still married to Heidi's mother. It was with her he fled, skipping bail, on a bounty that still stands today.
We didn't own the house. It was owned by someone else. That someone else owned it and was trying to get us out of this whole time. We were squatters.
Michael Assad had fine-tuned the art of deception years before he set his family up on the Gold Coast, when he moved his first family into a luxury mansion and didn't pay a cent.
We lived there 3 years, rent-free. But the wife would call, she would knock on the door, and I would get the calls, and I didn't know who this crazy lady was. She wanted her house, she wanted her money.
And then he convinced the bank that it was his. And they gave him the money for it on a house he didn't even own.
So the bank was too embarrassed to go after him because they'd been filmed as well.
By the time he left Heidi and her mother in 1985, he'd been in and out of jail several times. But this time, he wasn't going back, leaving Heidi and her mother with nothing. That was the day Bill started his manhunt.
She had an Amazon bird on her shoulder, and she had a martini in her hand and a tear in her eye. And she said, he's gone.
Michael Assad was living a double life as a businessman and one of the FBI's most wanted criminals.
And eventually the bond led to $1 million.
He was wanted in America, and for his return, $1 million.
Yes, sir. Correct.
Bill was shocked to see the man he had hunted resurface, but not surprised.
It fit him to the T. It's his lifestyle, it's his profile. That's him. He don't know no other way.
The biggest mystery is how Assad was ever allowed into Australia. And more puzzling, why he wasn't deported when he was arrested by Western Australian police in 1986 after being charged with fraud. The FBI wanted him back, but didn't send all the paperwork. He again slipped away.
A simple phone call to the FBI and a fax machine would have solved the problem.
25 years on, and again, Michael Assad is fresh out of prison. Released a fortnight ago after serving 9 months in New South Wales for fraud. And this is just his latest stretch. Before that, he was in for heroin supply and corruption. But believe it or not, he's now on bail due to face similar fraud charges here in Queensland. In this case, the rotten apple hasn't fallen far from the tree. His son, Michael Assad Jr., recently escaped a conviction for assault. In sentencing, the judge took into account he'd recently graduated from, of all things, a real estate course.
Not a son, I can see by his attitude, his demeanor. He's following in his footsteps, and he has his anger, he has his eyes, he has his determination, and it's all against society. It's poison. The family's poisoned by him. And he's the leader of the pack.
Meanwhile, in the United States, Michael Assad Sr. may be gone, but he's not forgotten.
Deputy Damien Hansen.
Hey, how are you? Nice to meet you.
You too. What can you tell us about Michael Assad?
Well, this individual still has an active warrant in the U.S. for grand theft, 3rd degree, and theft of probably, I think it's trade secrets. He's had that warrant since 1990. Right now, if he steps foot anywhere on U.S. soil, we want to grab him and bring him back to justice.
That's Damien Hansen reporting. Stay with us. Here's what's ahead on Today Tonight. Next, hair replacements going horribly wrong.
Flips up and flips back.
God, 3 little words will cause so much trouble. I want God. 3 little words will cause so much trouble. I want